From another conflict now, this is Ukraine and Russia. Mark Rutte, the NATO chief, saying prepare for war with Russia, and one of the defence ministers saying that Britain must stop relying on the US for defence. Let's get the view of Macer Gifford. Macer is a former British volunteer with the Ukrainian Army. Macer, thank you for joining me this morning. What do you make of this?
Well, I think it's absolutely right that we should be preparing for a large-scale war somewhere on this planet. I think we've really sort of underinvested in the military over the last sort of 20 years, and we've allowed them to shrink, and the capabilities to shrink as well. And we need to recognize that Russia is on our doorstep. It's rearming. It's building something like 200 tanks per year, and they've invaded Ukraine. And they've said in the past, or Vladimir Putin has said, that the loss of the Soviet Empire was one of the greatest tragedies to ever sort of hit the world.
But Macer, we're 3 years into, we're 3 years into this conflict. We're 3 years into the Ukraine war. He has taken, tragically and dreadfully, a fifth of Ukraine. He hasn't taken all of Ukraine. There's been no serious effort to take over Kyiv. There have been, of course, horrible bombs there. There has been a feint where they sent troops there to some degree, but he hasn't taken over Ukraine. And I worry that there is a lot of saber rattling by people who are saying that he's going to take over Ukraine, then he's going to take over Western Europe. I mean, there's no evidence to suggest that.
No, he absolutely wanted to take all of Ukraine. And
he may want to, but he hasn't done it so far, and he hasn't shown the capability to do it.
Sorry. Right at the beginning of the war, he attacked Kyiv, tried to take Kyiv. I was there, I was on the ground.
On field.
There was 20,000 Russian troops, and you're right, he failed. Because of, I've said in the past, Russia has relied on sort of general winter to protect themselves from the attacks of Napoleon and Hitler and all the rest of it. In northern Ukraine, it was a major mistake that saved Ukraine. Ukraine, the bravery of their people and the timely intervention of the West really helped them resist Russia. But it was actually really the Russians completely underestimating them and not being able to take Kyiv. There was a serious attack. They wanted Kyiv. They wanted all of Ukraine. And they were defeated in Kyiv. That's why the war now is confined to the east of the country, and it has run into a stalemate. You're absolutely right. Now, 1.5 million people have been killed and injured in this conflict so far. A lot of people have died. If they made a serious attack on the Baltics or any other country on this planet, this war could, a future war could be just as bloody, just as violent.
Well, yes, but again, I have to ask you, Macer, where is the evidence that that can happen? Because it hasn't happened so far.
What's happened in Ukraine? Ukraine's a perfect example.
But only 1/5 of the country. But only 1/5 of the country is under Russian control.
Just because they failed so far does not mean they're not a threat. They wanted all of Ukraine. There is serious evidence.
But if they haven't taken that, but Macer, my point is, if they haven't done that in 3 years, where they may want to, they may have huge imperial ambitions. They may want the whole of the Soviet Union back. And I'm not disagreeing with you that that is the view that Putin has, the ideology that he has. But does he have the capability? Because he's been fighting for 3 years and he's only taken a fifth of Ukraine. That's a horrible, dreadful, tragic war. He is an evil, murderous dictator. I'm not on his side. I'm just wondering where the evidence is that he may want to, but can he take either all of Ukraine or go into further Western Europe or indeed attack the UK?
Well, honestly, there's many ways that he could impact the UK. The UK, we are protected. We've got Europe between us and Russia. We are an island nation. We're never going to have an invasion force landing on our shores anytime soon. However, there is hybrid war. There is attacks on our infrastructure that Russia could do. Russia has already attacked us in many ways. There's been 2 chemical attacks on British streets. The last one killed a British citizen and wounded 3 more. One of them was a police officer who nearly died. Now, any other nation on this planet, if they had done that to us, we would quite rightly turn around and say that's a terror nation. And Russia, which in the last 3 years has invaded Ukraine, the invasion force was 200 and something thousand strong, which is completely under-resourced. It was ridiculous that he thought he could take all of Ukraine with that amount of people. But it shows you how deluded Vladimir Putin was. He was incredibly isolated during the COVID years. The very famous images of him sitting 20 meters away from the nearest person got him thinking that he could genuinely take all of Ukraine very easy. In fact, he said it would take 3 days. It was said many times.
I remember that, and it sort of comes back again to my key point, which is he may have the ambition, he may have the delusional belief that he can do that, but certainly we are underprepared. I get that point. We don't have the military resources we should have, and defence of the realm is the #1 duty of any government. And you talk about those poisonings, for example, Salisbury poisoning and others. I think back to the first story I covered as a professional journalist, the Alexander Litvinenko poisoning 20 years ago, for example. I covered that for Newsnight. I mean, those are horrendous things, but they affected a very, very small number of people. And I still wonder where the evidence is that he wants to take over all of the UK, and that we should be sitting worried about Vladimir Putin taking over our country.
He's not going to take over our country. As I said, we've got there's no country on this planet that could take the UK. In regards to its threats to the UK,
you don't think the United States could if it wanted to? I mean, it's not going to, but it could.
Not even the United States, but that's a separate conversation. But in regards to the serious threats to the UK, if there was an invasion of the Baltic nations, then we are because of our NATO commitments, we would have to respond. And at the moment, we've got 82,000 people in our military. Our kit is woefully inadequate for the battles of the future. And more importantly, we can't create mass or scale to the military quickly, particularly if there were two fronts opened up at the same time. If, for example, the Russians were to, let's say, invade one of the Baltic nations, and China was to invade Taiwan, or Iran was going to close the Straits of Hormuz, then what is Britain going to do to defend our interests, to make sure trade keeps flowing? We are a maritime nation, we are a trading nation, and what happens in the rest of the world greatly impacts us. And so when we are dealing with Ukraine, the Baltic countries, and saying we're going to defend them, we are defending ourselves by proxy. So it is absolutely important that we invest in ourselves. We have a robust and determined foreign policy that challenges our geopolitical enemies. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea are our geopolitical enemies. Do not allow anyone to tell you different. They wish to harm the United Kingdom. They want to weaken our power, and they want to erode our defenses. We need to strengthen ourselves to stop that.
Okay, thank you, Macer. That's Macer Gifford there, former British volunteer with the Ukrainian Army. Quite a number